Hey, what's up, guys? I just want to tell you that this video you're watching, it's just a clip. You could watch the full episode on our YouTube channel. Also, you could check the whole episode on all platforms where podcast streaming is available. Again, the title of this podcast is IDK What To Say. It's because we try to figure things out. Now, we talk about Dentuit, but this is for the listeners who are thinking of starting their own app or their own program or something. What are the initial obstacles that you experience when making Dentuit happen in the business or in the programming standpoint?
Well, so from the programming standpoint, a lot of the technology developments of the model itself is sort of on my co-founder, and so that may be an invite. So my co-founder is John. He has a PhD in computer science and is currently also a senior scientist at a federal lab here in this area, and so like the capabilities are certainly there. So I will say that like probably the important thing from my angle and my perspective is to really learn to collaborate, learn to kind of be open to working with other people and understanding what you're able to do and what you're not able to do really well. It's easy to kind of be in this kind of train of thought where you can just do a little bit of everything yourself, and that's simply not possible if you want to do a good job and be successful. And so understanding what you're really kind of uniquely kind of good at on a consistent basis and how that perhaps integrates and matches up with your future co-founders, if you will. You really want to, that's why a lot of investors say, again, for one, they look for that ideal number of two as like the starting founding team, the two co-founders, never really one. And then secondly, they always invest at such an early stage in not your idea, but the team, the founders. They want to see, how well you guys work together. And it makes complete sense because John and I, we could perhaps be doing some other tangential AI project and we will be operating and being productive just the same. And so what does that mean is that then that goes into my other advice and kind of, some advice about starting maybe a company around technology, and starting off as an entrepreneur is always understand your problem space to start. And I always say this to everyone, I'm like, a broken record in that respect, but I'm a firm believer that you don't start with the solution. You don't start with the technology. You start with the problem space, the problem itself. You just sit there and understand what is the as is so that you can then see where that technology could be in the future. So that, the solution that you make is actually the solution. It's not some technology that's just a magic trick at the end of the day. Because a lot of AI, I'm afraid, is becoming like that in some sense with all the hype that is going on. It's hard to tell if it's actually machine learning or is it using neural networks and deep learning. And so, I think it's also important that, so I'm the CEO and, my co-founder is the CTO. And as a CEO, it's not very common to see a level of technical understanding and some basic background with that. Oftentimes you see, I don't know, maybe the trend is going to change with AI startups becoming a bit more kind of ubiquitous in our society as it's becoming a lot more accessible and everything. But, you see a lot of technology startups prior to that with, very kind of a CEO with a business mindset and then the CTO with the non-business, but just the technical mindset. I don't believe in that. I believe that, it's important to kind of know a little bit of everything to a certain point where you can be dangerous with it, right? Like what I said earlier.
Yeah.
But the idea that, I came with a computer science with some life science kind of understanding and background. And that allows me to have very productive, meaningful, and progressive conversations with my CTO rather than me just sitting there assuming that whatever he's saying is going to be always right or whatever, and you just go with whatever he or she says. And so it's important, I think, to know also the technology that you want to build and how you want to build it to a certain degree, no matter what, your main role is. And so, knowing, what you truly are there for as a kind of a role player as part of this team, and then also certainly kind of knowing, the other person's roles to a certain degree and being able to kind of work together on that. And then, really finding somebody that you can really work well with. I mean, that's, easy to say, and I know, there's a lot of luck involved in that, but I think for me, the reason why I was able to perhaps identify John as a collaborator and a co-founder and such is that, number one, I knew myself better, right? The only way that you know how you're going to work well with somebody else is if you know your tendencies and how you work well in certain high stress situations. Because guess what? This whole startup thing from day zero is a high stress situation because there's a lot of risk involved. And
It
so
seems so.
how do you know yourself in these high stress situations? And then how does that play off of your partner, of your co-founder? How do they respond to high stress? And you really want to kind of do that kind of initial testing out process. And that's what John and I exactly did. And this is how I was able to eventually become full time. Is I think we looked at, so when we hooked up around the summer to become, co-founders for this venture, we were still both kind of occupied with our day job, but we knew that this was something that we were really truly passionate about. But we needed to figure out, do we work well together and make this successful? And so we took around from the summer until the November of 2019, so pretty much the end of 2019, effectively just working on this one federal grant, this proposal. And this is like a multi-month effort. And this kind of really kind of gave us an idea of how well we work together, or how do we work together, and what are some of the things to keep in mind when we work together. And that was really that testing out kind of point, where then when we kind of submitted a successful proposal and we got the award in the following year in July 2020, that was a huge validation that, not only is our idea considered promising by other people, including federal agencies, but that we were able to kind of work together between two people and bring together a proposal that is oftentimes written by a team, and be not only accepted for the award, but also have across the board just positive reviews from our examiners, our review and feedback. It's just the way that we, created the proposal. It was just a reflection of our workflow process. We use Trello, we use various kind of cloud-based tools. And so our transition to, let's say, remote work and coronavirus times in this kind of, era that we're living in now, wasn't too much of an adjustment, because, we were only meeting up, every Sunday, to kind of meet in person and at least kind of get more work done on the spot. But most of the time we were learning how to leverage the tools that we have access to at a minimal cost to be able to optimize collaborative workflows through the cloud, through online, and it wasn't much of an adjustment when the pandemic hit for us.
Wow, look at that. You did it, man. You watch until the end of the video, which is so cool, and I love to hear your thoughts about it. So comment down below or follow us on all our social media platforms and tell us about what your thoughts are.